Today I'm going to be building an Ork Clubhouse. I'm going to start with this large rectangular box. It used to be a plastic organizer for like screws and small mechanical parts. All of the plastic compartments had been previously melted. No idea what happened there. I decided early on that I wanted to break up the original box shape and cut a ramp down from the roof, and cut out a few of the other levels to create more space between the floors. I needed some larger steel plates, so I cut down various metal objects that I found around the farm. I cut off one end of the toolbox lid with the thought of making it a balcony, and cut the rest into small panels. I also needed some red panels, so I took the back end of this old wagon from a previous project and cut it into various size panels, as well as some jagged tooth shapes. Lid of a rusted cream can. This is a piece of an old oil drum that I had painted for a previous project. Cutting the panels out gave me enough time to think about where I wanted to go from here. There's that part of the toolbox lid creating a balcony for the front of the building. I'm continuously tack welding on more and more panels, filling out the spaces between the floors. Here's a good view of what will become the front of the building. I cut slits into part of the cream can lid to create a pillbox on the roof. Out of the other end of the toolbox lid, I created a walkway on the left-hand side. It's really starting to take shape here, and you can see the direction that I'm going in. I even welded on some little steps onto that ramp to create a small staircase. I added some chimney stacks to the roof next to the pillbox, and added some small details such as an old rusty spring and some old nails, as well as a wire running to the other side of the pillbox, and a handrail for the staircase. Safety first. Off-screen, I made a small ladder out of some hardware mesh, and a small platform in front of the pillbox, which, in retrospect, makes the pillbox pretty useless. Here I am welding more supports onto that small balcony. I started welding a small cage with that same wire underneath an overhang I had previously built. This will eventually house an old squig model that I found recently. I decided I wanted to add a cage to the side for a guard squig, so I welded one up out of different thicknesses of wire, using thicker wires to make the structure and then thinner to make the bar, kind of just haphazardly. It was a little too thin to weld all the time, so I ended up burning through the wire a couple times, but I'm pleased with the results for my little squig cage. And I added a loading dock to the other side for visual interest, and covered the seam with a piece of orange plate. Some of the thinner sheet steels are a little tricky to weld, like parts of this toolbox I burnt through, especially where 90-degree angles are involved. With a few final tack welds, it's nearly complete. Next, I'll give it a light wire brushing and then a clear coat to seal it all in. The project has exceeded my expectations for it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. All the different details and additions help break up the boxy shape of the original structure, while also giving it unique silhouettes when viewed from every angle. But it's the little details that I'm most pleased with, like the door, as well as the squig cage around the side. Things that help inform a narrative about the structure and the orcs that would use it. And the different textures of the salvaged steel panels lended an air of realism that I would not have been able to achieve with a brush. With these builds, I'm always going for the uncanny valley between the typical realism that Games Workshop miniatures are painted in, and a more abstract take like the early illustrations. I might go in later and paint some more details like banners and some of the orc glyphs, but for now my models will look great standing around waiting for the next battle. And finally, I hope this video has been interesting watching me explore alternative materials for building wargaming terrain out of. I think salvaged steel and using sheet metal and kind of more real-world materials has a lot of potential, and I'm definitely interested in pursuing this even further. Like and subscribe to see my next projects, as well as a build video for that Gargant.